Welcome to Master Muse. Welcome, everybody. And today we have a very special guest from Greece, Giannis Kanlis. He is a Navy finance officer and he holds a bachelor degree in economics and two master degrees. One of them is in financial management and another one is in defense economics. So today we're definitely going to learn something about money and something maybe about protecting our money. Giannis is an avid reader. He's a perpetual optimist. He is a long-time traveler, and he calls himself a communication orchestrator. Giannis, what does that even mean?
First of all, thank you, Marika, for inviting me today. And good afternoon, good morning, good evening to all your viewers. Lately, I'm a Toastmasters member, so I really enjoy the communication aspect of this institution. And I say that I'm an orchestrator because I take so many inputs from books, from friends, from mentors, and then try to combine them into something tangible for me and give an output, like someone who's orchestrating something. It takes inputs and it gives output.
That's a really nice explanation for a very fancy word. I hardly ever meet people who would choose this word to describe themselves, and that already shows your unique perspective on things. So when you were, how to formulate my question, Iver, there is so many things I want to ask. But the first one is, how did your path develop, like from Navy to finances or the other way around? And what was your motivation to pursue those things?
Marika, some years ago, someone told me, hey, you know YOLO. I said, what's YOLO? It means you live once, you only live once. And I said, no, you don't live once, actually, you die once. So throughout our lives, we can live multiple lives. There's not only one path. Someone can be a public servant and also a poet. Someone could be a musician and also a footballer. If you don't have physical restrictions like height to become a basketball player, you can pursue many things throughout our lives. So my journey eventually, when I'm coming from Lesbos Island in Greece. Mm-hmm. So by the age of 18, I went to the military academy and became an officer. While being an officer, I was also a semi-pro fencing athlete. Oh. Once I finished all that part of my journey, I started other journeys, other paths. One path is, of course, the parting path and the traveling path. But all these were ephemeral. Then I started another path, my spiritual path. At the same time, I started another path, my academic path. My first master's was when I was 34. It was late for some people, but that was when I heard my calling. And I keep from back when I was 34, I keep doing this research and this academic journey without feeling bad for starting so late. And then public speaking journey, so many journeys. And this is something I encourage to all of you. There is never a threshold that you reach to this threshold, you cannot move forward. No, so many successful authors started when they were 50, 60. That's my advice. It's never too late to start anything.
That's so inspiring already. I started my master also when I was 27 or 28. And somebody told me that's like the worst idea ever, because by the time I finish it, I will be 30 and people start working when they're 18. And I was like, come on, it's not like I did nothing for the 12 years. And it's really nice to hear your perspective. Started so many journeys. So I think the good topic, like you suggested, would be navigating realms of knowledge for this conversation. And Giannis, when you think about all those journeys, which one do you wish you started earlier? That's a tricky question, maybe, a little difficult one.
Starting earlier. Well, I don't know, because I don't want to live with the what if. What if this happens? What if that happens? I don't know. Certainly, I wouldn't change anything in my life because it happened for a purpose. I would definitely like to start my academic journey earlier, because then once I finish something, I might have more energy and time to do, like to pursue something else. But I don't feel that I should change something. Maybe what I would change is I didn't know, for example, the importance of mentorship and finding mentors in person or virtual mentors, like in books. No one told me that. I realized that by myself some years ago. And from the moment that I had this epiphany, my life changed, because I realized that how to find mentors, how to network myself, how to read books and take all this knowledge. But this is a lesson I took it later in my life. I wish someone have told me earlier that seek that, find mentors, go outside, build the relationships with people, and ask them to become your mentors. This may be something that I wish someone had told me earlier.
That's really interesting. You know, today in the morning, I had a conversation with someone who actually reached out to me and asked if I could be his mentor because of some nice reason, nice connection. But I was surprised to hear that he never had a mentor before. So now you mentioned this. What would you advise, what would you suggest to people who never had a mentor before? They don't even know how to approach people, what to look for in a mentor?
Perfect. My advice is that in our lives, we need to seek for three people: sponsors, mentors, and coaches. That's completely different things. Sponsoring someone in your work that can sponsor you and help you move faster in the hierarchy of your work. Coach is something that can teach you specific skills, but mentors is someone who can show you the path, but you have to walk this path by yourself. Now, I didn't have mentors in my life. No one inspired me, not a leader, not someone from my environment. Eventually, I find my mentors in my books, by reading biographies, by understanding leaders, what were their mistakes, so I wouldn't do the same mistakes. All this stuff helped me to fill this void of having no mentors. What I suggest you is, if you live in a rural area, don't worry, there are plenty of mentors in books. Read them, seek for wisdom, and start to build your network. It's something that not a lot of people want to expand and to build this relationship through networks. I'm not talking about exploiting your friends or your network. I mean, explore, build relationships, build your network. And with this tight relationship between the network, you can increase the chances to find something, find new jobs, find new friends, find a new mate. Network and mentors will be an accelerators throughout your life.
That's so important. Like, you know, I think I never heard anybody articulate this so clearly. And especially for me, it's sometimes also difficult to network because I'm from Poland, but I needed to change countries. So I went to the UK and to the Netherlands. And, you know, it wasn't in the time like this where we are anyway intercultural and connected, but it was more in this closed time. And it wasn't very easy to build the new connections. So I kind of learned to do things on my own pretty much. And only through Toastmasters, actually, I started seeing the value of different people coming together and building things together. And it's not like, you know, you do something for me and I, like what you said, exploiting versus exploring and seeing where can we build some synergies, when can we create something cool, like this conversation.
Yes, you can be the intermediate between two people that don't know each other and bring them together. Or, you know, people say, of course, you know that you are the average. I think Jim Rohn said it first. You are the average of the 5 people you spend most of your time with. When someone told me that, I had an epiphany, because if you jot down your time you spend with your people, with whom you spend most time with, are you satisfied with that? If not, you need to change the people you spend your time with. That means you need to spend more time with people you don't know now, but they will help you they will co-elevate you, like someone said. And when I realized that, I decided to change friendships. to build new friendships and become a better person, because I want all these people to help me to elevate and getting into a better state, into a better, to become something better and live my life to the fullest.
Absolutely. One thing that, like one thought that I'm having as I'm listening to what you're saying is also this, how to consciously choose your environment, if you like, the social environment. And one other tip of advice that I've heard this one, like the average of 5 people also pay attention to this. But also one I heard is that you should surround yourself with like 1/3 of people who have more expertise than you, so you can learn, then 1/3 people more or less on your level, so you can exchange and solidify your knowledge, and 1/3 of people who are to come after you, the younger ones, the less experienced ones, so you can share your knowledge with them. And this gives me this kind of nice balance in my circles.
Mm-hmm. There's a book from a professor in Yale called the Professor Christakis. The book is called Connected. So Christakis eventually made the term social networks before getting so famous with the social networks on the Facebook. So what is social network? Is the network of everyone, the connections. And one of the things that struck me in the book is, if you have a friend who is obese, you have 40% more chances to become obese compared to if you didn't have one. So think about that. Friends, even if they don't say anything, by being something, by being obese, by being aggressive or whatever, they influence you even if you don't realize that. This is the importance of social networks.
I go to Goosebumps. I didn't even think of this example. The only one I knew before was the divorce. If somebody in your circles is gonna get divorced, this increases the chances that you might also, because it kind of triggers the reflection, like, am I really happy? What if? And this could also impact.
It's the same notion. It might be not in your close circle of friends, but somehow you have these waves that influence you without knowing, without realizing.
Oh, wow. By the way, I wanted to ask you about one book that you could recommend that really changed you, with some kind of role model or a mentor where you discovered something for yourself. You already mentioned one book with the social networks. I don't know. Do you want to mention another one?
Definitely. I read, more or less, I read a book per week. So I can suggest like a couple of books. For example, Daniel Kahneman's, the Nobel laureate, Thinking Fast and Slow, changed the way I make decisions, because I realized that most of our decisions are very fast, and that's normal, but they shouldn't be. And the reason which is fast is because it's less energy consuming in our brain. And we are slaves to our biases and mental shortcuts, which is a huge problem, because advertisers, for example, know how to exploit these mental shortcuts and biases and sell products, even if we didn't realize that in the first place. And a book I finished like 2 days ago, an excellent book about leadership, is from Professor Pfeffer, and it's titled The 7 Rules of Power, which is a very dangerous book, because it suggests how to use rules in your working environment and getting faster to the hierarchy by expanding your networks, by breaking the rules, by getting out of your own way. And this might feel comfortable for some people, but if you realize that successful people are not authentic, for example, or that they're using tips that will help them getting higher to the higher echelons of an institution, you might don't love their tricks and their ways, but this is how they become successful, by becoming eventually more powerful and showing this power to everyone, and everyone loves them. So it's a book with a different mindset for leaders. It's another book.
now I have a reflection about, the power of words, actually, because of the sayings that was so ingrained in my head, like knowledge is power. So to me, getting power means I need to learn, I need to get some insights. And I guess for different people, it could mean different things, like position in the organization and so on. But I wanted to ask you, because you mentioned two books, Thinking Fast and Slow and then Power. And to some people, money is power. So since you have a lot of financial background and I have absolutely zero, I thought about asking you, what would be some tips that somebody could use to improve their financial situation? Because when, as you said, we take decisions really, really, really fast. And if we had some bad habits and are prone to these advertisements, we can get rid of our financial resources really quickly. So maybe you could give us a crash course, one-on-one, on basic finance management.
Although I'm not an investment guy, I can share with you some tips from our own experience. For example, I travel a lot, especially in Europe, although my salary is not something spectacular. How do I do that? I save 10% of my monthly salary. I save it for traveling, meaning if I get like 2,000 euros, 200 euros every month goes out of their own way. You cannot touch them, even for emergency. This is how I accumulate some capital for my travels all around Europe. So you can do that. You can save something like 10%, 15 or 5%, doesn't matter. You need to save something. But my advice to all of you is to understand what we call the satisfaction treadmill. What's that? You want to achieve something like buying a new iMac, a new iPhone. You need to realize that, okay, I want to buy that. And I want to save money for that. And I managed to save money and I paid the 1,400 euros. And you bought it and you feel so nice. You feel so ecstatic. And after a couple of months, you realize it's just a cell phone and you're looking forward to the new iPhone. Why is that? Because it's like a meal that we call it a satisfaction or hedonistic treadmill. So eventually you are so happy, you're looking forward to buy that, and you try and you do your best and you buy it, and then you want something else. So my only advice, my sole advice to all of you is, if you want to buy something and spend a lot of money on that, like a new car or a new house, you need to answer what Simon Sinek says. Why? Why you want to do that? Do you want to impress, or is it something of an urgency? Why you want? And you need to be honest with yourself, not with your friends or your parents, with yourself. Why you want to do that? And once you give an honest answer to this why, then you will realize if you can pursue that and spend money on that. So you want to buy fancy clothes. Why? Honestly, why you want to do that? It may help you to present this power into your work environment. That's okay. If that's a reason, okay. But if you want to do that to impress, for example, a boy or a girl, then you need to realign your needs. Why, this simple word, why, is so powerful that once you give honest answer to that, then you might have a better financial attitude towards your future buys and your future purchases.
So important. Always know the reason why you want to spend money, right?
That might make sense to you. I mean, why you want to buy the new phone? I mean, if the answer is not something that satisfies your inner self, don't do that. Don't do that.
When I'm listening to you, I think back to the part of my life or a situation where I was like broken. Like I just graduated, moved to Austria again, couldn't find a job because I didn't speak German, and there were a lot of obstacles, ran out of my savings pretty quickly. And I remember that at that time I wanted to buy things. I like craved them because I felt like I can impact, I can make myself feel good by buying some stuff. But now when my situation is like more stable, and I also like to use this saving approach, not that structured like yours, but still, I don't really need the need. Like my why is most often to improve the quality of my life, make things more efficient, make things easier, things like that.
But so Yeah, let me share you a tip. For example, by the end of the year, when you make these New Year resolutions and go back to the past year and realize your experiences and your memories, if you can jot down the top 10 memories and can you realize what is the main concept and what's behind all the memories. For example, if your favorite memories for the past year are traveling, are, for example, going and seeing friends in other countries, this means that you are happy when you travel, and this is how you should spend your money. If you are happy seeing back the year, if you're happy with your new phone because it gives you so many pleasure and this or that and help you in your work, if that's what really sticks and makes you smile, then you should pursue that. But you need to take a look on your notes and see what makes me happy, and this is where I should spend my money, right?
Mm-hmm. That's such a good piece of advice, such good guidance, especially as a contradiction to this, thinking fast and making decisions quickly, to have some time for reflection and kind of get to the point where we have some good references, right? Good signs, if you like, to get in the specific direction. Because we're talking about navigating realms of knowledge. You mentioned starting lots of journeys. And I guess sometimes it's really overwhelming to choose the direction for yourself.
Yes. Well, I try to do different things in order to find the meaning of life. Eventually, the meaning of life is what Viktor Frankl said, giving and having a purpose, like a North Star. I try all these different things, and some of them I stopped them. Like I used to be an energy healer, a Reiki master teacher. I even pursued to become a yoga teacher, but that didn't feel, and I didn't feel like it helped me to become the better version of myself. I enjoyed the trip. I took many, many things, but then I left the journey and started something else. Eventually goes on to the why you do that. What do you want to achieve? And once I realized that I want to give to people, I don't want to be just a Navy officer. I want to be something greater, something that will help people, something that, one of the things that I realized in my work is that many people don't know how to talk in plain English, in plain Greek, meaning that we have these long sentences and no one understands that. We have this death by PowerPoint. I don't understand that. So one of my North Stars is now help people to speak in 10 words. 10 words, I mean, big ideas in short sentences, in very short words. This is how, like Feynman said with his famous technique, can you speak in your plain English, in plain language? Can you speak like talking to a 6-year-old kid and say out loud what you can, your expertise in simple terms, and make a 6-year-old boy or girl understand that? Can you do that? This means that you know what you're talking about. And this is something I was striving, and now I'm getting better and better. Speaking in simpler terms in order to help everyone understand what I'm talking about.
I'm so impressed that you mentioned Feynman technique, because that's what I wanted to make another special video about, like how to learn best, because there are so many bad ways, and this is one of the good ways. And when we talk about a lot of topics, we talked about finances from all the realms of knowledge that you navigated. We talked about how the brain works, like the economics and behavior. I didn't talk so much about the Navy, so maybe like last question. When I think about Navy or military academy, my first association is discipline. And I wanted to ask you, how do you look at the topic of motivation versus discipline?
Well, discipline is one of the basic tenets of defense forces around the world. But one of the most interesting things in the military is that you can see how someone can become a leader, not from the top, because he is the most senior, but from the bottom. And it's a unique environment that you can see how someone can ask for help, can help people to envision something and pursue a common target. Like someone, not trying to convince, but having followers because all of them agree on something, having a common vision. Now, motivation is something that is a very weird topic and very related to neuroscience. Motivation has a lot to do with the chemicals in our brain, mostly with dopamine and endorphins, but mostly with dopamine. Motivation can be very tricky if you can understand, for example, why you do that. Are there any obstacles that prevent you from doing something? Do you have a friend that can help you and drag you if you have a zero motivation? And it has a lot of contemplation about, for example, when are you more motivated? In the morning, afternoon, evening? There's a lot of science behind that. But most of motivation comes from a distance so short. And this distance is this. Motivation comes mostly from this. This, the heart, can impact motivation, but mostly if this is in great shape and has answers in a lot of questions, then can help you, wear your shoes and your t-shirt and go out and go for jogging, even if it's 0 Celsius, because you have answered some whys and you have found your North Star towards a goal.
That's a lovely explanation. I haven't realized that there was so much space or so much importance in the military settings to be, leaders from the bottom, to be inspiring, to get this social trust actually, and inspire people to follow the common vision. In my head, it's always like top down, like some drill sergeant is telling you exactly what to do. But this reminds me about the research that I had to read when I was doing my master's degree in management of learning, about the difference between like these formal networks, like hierarchies, and informal networks, which are really based on social connections. And whenever you want to make a change, you need to find the leaders in both, and probably the social informal network is gonna do more. It's gonna work better for like organizational change or something like that.
Well, an example from the military is the famous Blitzkrieg from the Germans in World War II, and the Israeli example during the war, in the 7-day war with the Syria and with the Arabic world. What they did that is they gave a goal, like, I want you to do that, but they didn't explain how you're going to do that. So they gave all this freedom to the leaders, to the command leaders, the tactical leaders on the battlefield. Say, I want you to do this. I don't know how you're going to do that, but find your own way to do that, which is very important because the top hierarchy doesn't know all the details in the battlefield. The tactical commanders know that. So you cannot wait for orders from the hierarchy. Okay, I'm stuck. What should I do? And should I attack now or not? That's not the right way to tackle all these problems. You give the target, you give the vision, you give what you want, and then you let all these leaders, all these commanders to do their job. And most of them, if they're trained, they know what to do.
That's like very important leadership lesson right there at the end, nearly, with leading from the top is what, the goal, the vision, but how, and the steps should be down to the people themselves. And that's like the leading from the bottom. So inspiring. Giannis, thank you for sharing so much information today with us. There are so many things I want to remember from this conversation, like the financial management tips to save consistently, the tip to spend write down 10 memories at the end of a year, that there is never too late to pursue interesting topics, and it's okay to start new things and end the other things, and to be in constant movement and to build the networks. I'm very curious to our viewers, what is the tip that you want to remember from this conversation? Let us know in the comments. And if you want to ask Giannis any questions, you can also add them in the comments, and I'll make sure that he's gonna be reached and answer them. Thank you so much for joining us, Giannis. And
Thank you very much. It was an honor, Marika.
honor for me. Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye, everyone. Nice to be here.